Welcome to Talking Horses Sunday edition. Greg Wolf, Sarah Al-Badwi. That was Sarah on stand-up bass during that intro. Well done.
And you were the one giving the thumbs up, right?
Good to see everybody on the Sunday afternoon. We just talked about it on something that's probably already up online, but yeah, some big races yesterday on the Triple Crown Trail. Nice selection by you with the
Thanks.
Speedster who goes gate to wire, which amazingly, I heard the comments after Rafael Bejarano, the plan was not to be on the lead. He thought a couple other ones were going to be there.
Well, I'm glad things did not go according to plan in that case. A lot of trips in that race, of course. Sandman being the one that's most obvious since he rallied so well to finish second after that tough beginning. Other horses further back than we thought they would be. So a lot to unpack in there. Publisher as well, getting cut off at the rail. So it never hurts to be a little bit lucky, but I think that maybe next time he's not the one I'd want most coming out of that race.
And we got a classic winner back to maybe better than he's ever been. White Barrio just tour de force in the Pegasus. Cool to see with, you know, they had to with what happened at the time take that horse away from Saffie Joseph Jr., but it had to hurt a lot. And he was vindicated, gets the horse back, and now this horse puts together a huge effort.
He does. I'll be curious to see if he can hold that form through the course of the year because we know that going back, he had ability. We know he likes Gulfstream especially, but he can take his show on the road. Just curious to see what we get from him going forwards, but I believe it was a 109 buyer that he earned for that dominant performance yesterday. So
let's get through the business, then we'll get into this Sunday card. Start off by saying, got to play with NYRA Bets, right? Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Get that offer, that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. When you punch in that code bonus 200 and sign up for new members, again, at nyrabets.com. And then once you're a member, we got all kinds of promos going on this afternoon, including take advantage of this. Track stats, bet smarter, win bigger, hopefully. Bet the action at Aqueduct with weekly track trends, stats, and betting insights. We have a carryover, a little one today, into this pick six on the Sunday card. I guess no one had that Christophe Clement runner in the finale. In the pick six.
4 of 6 it paid.
I can't believe someone had to pick 5, to be honest with you.
I know.
Paid, I think, $179,000 in the pick 5.
Yeah.
Well done. Crazy. So, yeah, pick 6 of $16K today. Got a $2,500 hit split bonus offer. If you hit the late pick 4, you'll share that pool with everyone else who hits it as well. Don't forget, you got to opt in for that to take advantage. We got a cross-country pick 5 with Oaklawn and Aqueduct. Kicks off 3:25 Eastern, race 5 in Hot Springs. We have our crew continuing to hold things down there this afternoon. And our coverage, to give you some insight, hopefully, into that cross-country pick 5, kicks off at 2:30 Eastern on FS1.
It does. Till 5:30 today, I believe, is our end time. You and I are up here. Yeah.
They didn't give us an end time. We go until they tell us to stop.
Forever.
All right, you ready to rock on
5:30 sounds good.
First of the afternoon here at Aqueduct. $20,000 maiden claiming 6 furlong sprint. Part of the entry taken out for Linda Rice. The 3 who was a major player in here taken out as well. I'll let you start.
I think that when you look at Dangerous Driver to begin, and we can take a look at the replay for him, he seems like a horse that he's had so many opportunities. 0 for 20 maidens, generally not my cup of tea, not the types of horses I like to pick, especially at short prices. But when you break down his races and just isolate on dirt, maiden claiming ranks, 0 for 6 with 2 seconds, a little bit more palatable. And at this level, 0 for 4 with 2 seconds, and maybe he didn't appreciate the sloppy sealed surface a couple starts ago. He makes a lot more sense, and I just could not take a horse that was originally part of an entry and is now on his own and just going to be such a short price off of the drop in class.
I liked him anyway, even when everyone else was in this race. The entry is going to be a ridiculously short price. I still think Ain't No Joke is going to be probably too short a price, who probably gets the lead in here. But this horse, as you said, yeah, it's just kind of buried form. Break it down even further into sprints on fast tracks. Or it's like, 0 for 3 or something like that. There's a lot to like. The last start and then 4 starts back, and those were efforts on fast tracks at 7 furlongs, has run faster than anyone else in this field has, and has done it multiple times. I just love the horse, how that kept grinding and kept coming at your winner in that spot. It was going to be a rematch with Wadja, but that one gone now in here. You know, obviously Ain't No Joke with the drop in class. Just off that alone, with Linda Rice off the claim, is dangerous. But and it's not going to be as unpalatable a price as you're going to get with Wadja out. But I want Dangerous Driver because I'd really like to see how this horse could do. I think with a better break too, was drawn all the way on the outside last time out. It did break outward into open space, and I think that did cost him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with all the things you're saying, and I think with Ain't No Joke, he's had a little bit of time off, but also he's dropped down after being claimed for 50 to this $20,000 level. So not seeing from him what they would to potentially step him up in class. So that's also a little bit of a concern. He's probably just running where he belongs, but wanted to go elsewhere.
And we had to fill this out, our top four. I would be shocked, but look, it's a lower level race. I still would
know.
have a hard time finding someone else
I agree.
surprising in here.
Yeah.
All right, race 2, pick 4, 7 furlongs, 25,000 sale price here. Non-winners of 3 life in this spot, and obviously huge scratch with the 6 coming out. You go to the 5, Patriarchal, who is coming back fairly quick.
He is. I'm just hoping he gets a stalking position outside of Aberdeen, who is your horse to beat for obvious reasons. And here, second off the claim for Morley, dropping back to a level that they claimed him at, has that early speed. My problem with him is just that he hasn't been winning when he's been expected to at very short prices. As of late, looking at last time out, 2 starts ago, even 4 starts ago, I just don't totally trust that he's going to be able to sustain that speed. So I just went for the only other horse on paper I could make a case for. But this is his race on the 6th of December. Gets beat by a horse that was coming off a lengthy layoff for Todd Pletcher.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The start after that, I think it's a much tougher group than what he's going to have to deal with for the most part in here. But the speed certainly makes this one dangerous. And Patriarchal, I was intrigued by too. I mean, the quick comeback, I'm a little concerned by. But ran basically thoroughgraph-wise the same number that Aberdeen did 2 back when that horse ran such a good effort. So can the horse translate that form from Parks here to New York? But the horses run okay out of town before. Okay, not great, but obviously that Parks was kind of a step up to a new level. But yeah, I thought it was intriguing. I wish the others were still. I wish Have You Heard was still in this race. But
right, because you're going to take an even shorter price on a horse like Aberdeen. But yes, with Patriarchal, I was looking at this trainer running at NYRA, and over the past 5 years, there was only 1 horse, which was just on the 16th, and that horse finished 3rd. So it's not anything to really draw any information from, but seems like he was pressured for the pace 2 back, or when he was going that mile and 70 yards, and he just faded in there. I can make some excuses for that performance. He was just the only other horse to potentially upset your favorite.
Midnight Worker, I will say, this horse has been incredibly consistent. We know what we're going to get for it. 5 of the last 6 starts has run the same type of figure, which, and it's totally possible, Aberdeen and certainly Patriarchal, because it's Parks form, don't run the race here. I think that's the horse who maybe can upset.
Yeah, I think he needs 2 horses to not show up over their last couple of starts and bring that into this race, but then you're left with a horse that has that consistency.
Yeah. Race 3, 6 furlongs, $20,000 maiden claiming group, and yes, here we go. Pick 6 carryover. That's the number. Starts in this race coming up, and there's a few interesting runners in this spot. Obviously, Broderick's going to take a lot of attention, cutting back in distance.
Yeah, he's one that makes a lot of sense in here because I think that clearly he just didn't want to go quite as far in those races where, yes, he was finishing 2nd behind Arcadian in there, but I just hope that he gets a little bit of pacing and sort of be more of that forward type or potentially translate that into a stalking trip in here because there wasn't a ton of speed that I thought was going to sustain it in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Real Lev's quick. Faded last time out, though. What are you thinking with the 7?
I'm thinking that maybe he didn't care for the offgoing in that last race.
I think so,
And so I saw it. So I was like, what are you thinking? The 2nd place finisher of that race came back to win. I know that he was a little helped by the racetrack, got a comfortable lead, Vamonos, but he earned a 71 Beyer speed figure doing that. So even if you take into consideration the trip and the track, maybe he's running at least the same number. So I thought that was a good sign. The barn is going very well. Over the past 2 months, 3 for 15 here at NYRA, 20%. The ROI is a little bit lower, but I think part of that is that part of the entry winning Crazy Mason when they were betting Radio Red in that spot and on his own would have been a much bigger price. So I didn't read as much into the ROI.
Yeah, actually 3 for his last 7 here at Aqueduct, Gregory Sacco. which is starting to heat up. Even the debut. I like the debut even better because this horse that was Puckish. I think is a pretty good horse who ran that 73 buyer in there. Horse King Spirit did not start good in that straight maiden group at Finger Lakes in the debut as the second place finisher that day. A couple starts later ran a 60 buyer. And I'm willing to say, look, maybe the wet track just didn't take to it. And there's a little bit of pedigree, too. The second dam was graded stakes placed as a 2-year-old filly for Steve Asmussen and the debutante at Churchill. Not saying this one's of that quality, but I think there's reasons to like off the fast track dirt debut that this horse against this level, definitely can make an impact.
Yeah, I agree. And I just didn't want to take the entry on top because Cara Dia Mejor's last race was just not very enticing.
Yeah. Cool Hand Rich,
Firster.
just being a new face, one that you'd want to use in multi-races or no?
It depends. I mean, David Donk not necessarily known for having first-time starters cranked and ready to go in their debuts, but I
May not need
totally
to be in this race.
understand wanting somebody else because these horses are still fairly lightly raced, but nobody is a standout so far.
Yeah. Starts the pick 6, dicey one to start it off where you probably would like some coverage. Race 4, where can we narrow down? And this, if you are playing this pick 6 today, this one's 6 furlongs. We'll break after this race. 4-year-olds and up, $16,000 condition claiming group in this spot. You have gone to the 6 in here, Perfect Flight. What'd you like about this 6-year-old?
He needs to improve a little bit off of that last race and get back to some of his higher numbers. But if you look at the race that he was in last time out that we're taking a look at, he was off slow in this spot. He did finish behind Devil's Key. Devil's Key a little bit inconsistent lately, but this was one of his better efforts for sure. I just thought that Perfect Flight was getting off a little bit slowly, getting the wider trip, whereas Devil's Key got to save much more ground than he did. And I like that Katie Davis is getting back aboard because she seems to get along with this horse well. And even the race 2 back, that's been a very productive race moving forwards. The second place finisher, Honorary Degree, came back to win. We saw Bench come back to win. And a couple of others in there are at least running the same, if not better numbers. So I just thought that he had a little bit of a trip last time and possibly could turn the tables on Devil's Key.
The Devil Key's interesting to me. I know stepped up and ran that big figure last time out, but it's not out of nowhere. That horse actually ran that figure 3 times last year, or even a little bit faster. So I think it's not out of the ballpark that a horse could even improve potentially off that horse. There's question marks with Hey Brother. This drop in class into this low level. This horse is a massive standout.
He is.
But you have now a 6-month layoff. Bit of a red flag, though, with this drop. This was a wet track, so it's a different kind of track. This horse was just a beautiful mover in this race on this kind of racetrack, and I know it's not going to be that kind of racetrack today, but I mean, this horse was just gliding over this muddy, sealed surface. There's so many races where this horse can even regress 2-3 lengths and still easily handle this field. I couldn't go against him here.
I think he's a major lean within the sequence, and I wouldn't leave him out, even with my little bit of an idea for a long shot, because all of his races, except one of them where he was eased and then off for some time, are just so much faster.
And he faced the race he Ashcroft. He won 2 in a row, and then he went into a grade 2 at Santa Anita. That was in pretty tough company he was facing that day.
Right, and while he is a horse that's moved from David Jacobson over here, the number that he ran winning that race at Delaware is exactly in line with the races that he was running out in California, except for the one where he was off subsequent to that. So I don't think this was some case where anything that he was running in his last start was an outlier. It's just a matter of this big drop in class
And
the time away.
he can be forward, too, and I think, the time off, too, he's going to be sharp out of the gate. It's going to be incredibly tough in here if he has. But, look, maybe he can't run anymore. And that's the
Always
reason
possible.
for the drop. We'll see. But he looks like a massive standout in that 4th race. Break, and we'll come back and talk the late pick 4 right after this.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Back with you, Sunday edition Talking Horses. Greg, Sarah, late pick 4 starts in the 5th, maiden special weight. 6.5 furlong sprint, decimated by scratches, unfortunately. So we're left with a small field in this spot. And even when those horses were in, these horses that go from Brad Cox to Brittany Russell, these big pedigrees, these expensive horses, they never seem to win here. So I was going to try and beat this horse regardless.
Exploration?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a very short price over his last 3 starts. He's not going to be quite as short in this spot. I understand the thinking of, okay, maybe he just didn't want to go the mile distance and they are cutting him back, and he did run a big number 2 starts ago when finishing second. I just thought that there were some horses in here that perhaps were a little bit more intriguing, but I think that the 2 that are or the one that's going to take the bulk of the play, especially now with Badge of War coming out, it's Claire Quilty towards the outside.
No question. So what did you like, though, with Egypt?
Just looking at company kept, I thought that he had faced some of the better horses overall. I know that he was starting, excuse me, to tail off a little bit, and then they tried the turf, and he did run a much better number on that surface. He has to contend with the layoff, but if you throw out the race at Parks, he has numbers that are right there with some of the other contenders in this race. He has to handle the cutback as well, but I just thought that he has some good races in him where I thought that, especially that race behind Lord Vicente, he can run some of those numbers that are competitive. Maybe this is just a starting point to get him to stretch out again. But of the horses that were coming back off some time away, I just thought that he had faced better company.
Okay. Yeah, off since May for that horse, see what he does. Claire Quilty looks pretty tough in this spot here. I actually was going to try and beat this horse, but now with all the scratches, I thought there were a lot of interesting runners. They all scratched. Claire Quilty, though, first time out sprinting, that was actually a very good effort. As quick as anyone has run in this spot in here, first time out. It's never easy to win in your debut, going 7 furlongs. The horse was actually quick out of the gate, was able to get position, was in front early, and then settled to be in second in there. And I love how he actually found more in the stretch and got by that pace setter and looked like he was going to win that race, but then got run down by a horse came from last to first. Stretched the horse out. You would think pedigree-wise into Mischief is going to like more ground, but the sprint race was really good, but probably something just went wrong anyway. The horse went to the bench and was gone for that long. That makes you think that was the reason this horse was away. I think this horse massively now the one to beat in the spot. There is another Chad Brown, though, who a little interesting, but has had 3 opportunities, just has not shown me anywhere near enough. And, oh, yes, a half to Chancer McPatrick, but he's already had 3 opportunities to show that he's of that ability, and he's not.
He's not yet, and he might never be. It's highly likely. But I do like him cutting back in distance, I will say, because his debut was going the 6.5. Then they tried the mile, then
And
the
it was
mile and
terrible.
an eighth. They were awful races from him. But can always be forgiving of a debut, as you mentioned. Didn't get out of the gate all that quickly. He needs to run much faster than we've seen in the past and also overcome the layoff. But I do at least like this distance much better for him being a son of Munnings.
Yeah. So, yeah, just interesting storyline to the race, no question. Anyone else you want to cover in here?
I just want to say about Claire Quilty, the horse that did beat him in that first race has run some fast races since, but that was a horse that had had at least 6 or 7 opportunities to break his maiden, and I hold it against horses sometimes when one of those non-winning types is able to get their first victory over them. But he can certainly win.
Race 6. New York Preds, first allowance level race, another 7 furlong event coming up in this spot. And we're going to look at the horse coming off a long time away in here for Todd Pletcher. Trust Fund hasn't run since October of 2023, but the horse has shown ability. Look, one first time out from the very outset, this horse showed ability. This race was second to what you're talking about, who has just come back and run a 106 Beyer, dominating for Wesley Ward back on January 16th.
Even with progressive improvement, which may not even necessarily have to occur that much with this horse, he's way the horse to beat. He can be forward, he has to deal with some time away, but he was always that precocious type as a 2-year-old. And when he was getting a clean trip, he was running some numbers in the 70s that even those could still make him a player in this spot. It's just a matter of coming in here off the time away that he's had. And I don't necessarily want to take horses that have been off for more than a year on top at 8-5, but he's way the horse to beat. And I'm sure kind of the other lean within this sequence.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, just a little improvement, and he's going to be really tough in this spot here. Violent Swing, I think, is interesting. I downgraded him a little bit because of
Beating
who he
York
beat in
Tavern.
that spot in York Tavern, who I actually did like the other day, just did not run well. But I mean, the horse has had a couple of good performances, but that horse did improve. But was it the wet track? Potentially. Was that race not as good as that number? Possibly. What do you like with the 5?
He can be forward. I think that he's one that, yes, speaking of horses that took a long time to break their maiden, he fits the bill perfectly. But the company that he's been keeping has been better than what he's going to be facing in here. Treaty Obligation, even running third in that race, and just a horse that has turned into kind of a fighter when he's able to get that forward position. I don't necessarily know what happened last time as much, but he did get bumped at the break. Maybe just didn't run quite as well over that sloppy sealed track. So maybe those are some things to forgive with him, because I think if he gets forward position in this spot, he has that recency edge on Trust Fund.
And Ironman Ira coming off that maiden win. Probably needs to get a little quicker off that performance, but some aggressively fast works too. Particularly that January 18th work for Dutrow.
Yeah, I mean, I like that he was able to at least get back to one of his better races. He certainly has some that are fast enough in there, just a matter of whether or not he can face winners for the first time and sort of show up with another step forward.
That's the 6th. Ready for the 7th?
I'm ready.
All right, another 7 furlong. We got a lot of 7 furlong events here. State bred, 8 other than in this spot. And let's see, what'd you do? You went to the 2. Berjol.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just coming out of a live race facing Acoustic Avenue, who was taking a massive drop in class and then came back to win with a significant improvement. Grey Wing, we saw come back to have that dominant performance and get the victory with a similar number. He finished third in there, and I thought that there would be enough pace in this race for him to be able to set up sort of that closing kick that we saw from him last time, because facing a tough field that has been productive, and I think that a lot of horses in the spot want to be forward.
I wound up going to Clancy Fancy, and I think you may wind up getting an okay price, because I think a lot of people look at that last race and say that was a day that being forward, speed down on the inside was doing well that day. But I still see a little bit more of, not maybe that helped a little, but this horse was improving anyway, and this horse had run a figure in the ballpark, a few starts back, where just the time away to do that off the bench too. I think just getting better. And now we turn the page to now 5-year-old campaign. We might see the best of this horse yet. And I don't know if he has to be on the lead to win.
I agree, because some of his races prior to, he hasn't had that kind of speed on the dirt. And I think that turf sprint at Saratoga going the 5.5 furlongs really sharpened this horse up to then come back and have the kind of speed that he possessed, switching back over to the dirt. But before that, he was a horse that would sort of sit mid-pack or even further back than that and make a move. So I think that he's one that has proven to be quite tactical in here, and that might come into his advantage, because if there is other speed, then he can adapt.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that showing that speed in that turf sprint, he probably gets the lead if he wants it, and he has a really quick first step. If you watch that race where he did win on that dirt effort last time out to break his maiden, he's very sharp out of the gate. So definitely he's interesting in this spot. Nunzio cutting back just a little bit. Another one who could be dangerous here. Second off a short layoff with, Kendrick. He's going to try and be aggressive in here, but I don't think he's going to be able to get the lead.
Yeah, coming back from the mile and then cutting back to the 7 furlongs versus a horse that had shown turf sprint speed at 5.5. I agree, unless they're all out to really claim that early spot.
Race 8, if you make it this far in the pick 6, 1-turn mile, New York Breds, $25,000 maiden claiming race. In this spot, Revivalism, I guess we got to start here. We both went to this horse. It's a drop down in class, and this horse had the rail last time out, was forward, and was actually, had a horse sort of latched onto him through most of the race, at least early on that day.
Yeah, I mean, he was well beaten in that spot, but taking the drop in class with the kind of speed that he showed in that last start, it's not as though he'd never run a race that was around that number. That other 50-something buyer speed figure was when he was in for the tag, and now he drops even further down the class ladder. He just makes a ton of sense having the positional speed that he's able to show, and then getting some company relief in here, though there are a couple that are dropping maiden special weight to maiden claiming, but not ones that are coming off of an effort like his last time.
Yeah, one of them, the horse you picked in there, who has not shown a lot, although got an okay figure in the debut against Better.
I worry about the last race with Runnamore, but getting back to the first race, I don't know. And coming into this spot, getting significant class relief, if this horse can find that first race and build off of that, I think that this is an alternative, but I'd still be pretty heavily using Revivalism over anyone else in this spot.
We're going to look at the Daytona Moonshine I'm Solo in Love race. They were third and fourth back on January 10th. And for Daytona Moonshine, a little bit interesting just because of how bad this horse gets out of the gate here and has to drop back to last.
And this horse was bet as well. This horse ended up going off as your favorite, and I thought still ran okay to end up finishing third in here. The concern with this one is that I would say this is about anyone looking to claim off of Jamie Ness if you're going to get that same type of performance.
Horse who won this race came back and won an allowance optional claiming 50 event, improving 12 buyer points, which flatters the form a little bit more. So interesting here, certainly. As for I'm Solo in Love, who finished fourth, not as interesting to me.
No, but staying within the same connections, and that was the first time going a mile on dirt that wasn't versus Maiden Special Weight Company. The note says that he was climbing. I think that was more a function of his own doing because he got out of the gate a step slow and he didn't overcome that in the same way as Daytona Moonshine. It was just a difference in looking at similar prices with them of a horse that was switching barns to lower profile connections.
And I will say the 10. I know I have him fourth, but Gumman J. Votley, first time on a fast track, last time out, was making up a little bit of ground against a little bit tougher company. So minor interest with that horse outside.
All right.
Where's your big lean? I mean, I guess it's the horse coming in from Delaware off the 6-month layoff, right? Aside from that,
I think that he and Trust Fund have to be on the ticket, and then I'll try to get a little bit more creative in other spots. Revivalism has to be on the ticket, and then I would try to find some long shots in between. You?
good luck. The Delaware horse for sure, I think, is a massive standout. I'm not as sold on Trust Fund as being as I definitely have to use, but I would not be shocked if that horse gets beat.
Yeah.
And then just some of these other races, just cheaper races, and it's not
It's
races
tough
where
to
you
narrow it
trust as much and have those races with a little more class where you can feel good about things. We've seen some crazy results here.
We have. If
certainly
you
this
like a
past week.
price, bet, because it's so possible to get a long shot home here. We saw plenty yesterday on what
Indeed.
was a very formful card.
$179,000
Pick five.
the other day. Good luck, though, if you're playing this pick six. Again, get signed up. Be involved. Got to be in it to win it. Bonus 200. Code to use at sign up. Play with Naira Bets to bet any track, anywhere, anytime. And you'll get that offer when you punch that code in at sign up. You can also take advantage of track stats once you're a member and get those weekly insights on track trends, stats, and more. Carryover today starts in the third. $16,802. Good luck to everybody going after it. And we have a $2,500 hit and split bonus pool to that late pick four. Hit that pick four, and you'll share that pot with everyone else who hits it as well. You got to opt in. Make sure you do that as well. Cross country pick five today. And we'll be on air for all of it, beginning with the fifth at Oaklawn at 3:25 Eastern start time out in Hot Springs. Races 5, 6, 7 from Hot Springs. Races 6 and 7 from here in New York. And again, our coverage kicks off Fox Sports 1, 2:30 Eastern start time. Looking forward to it. We will see you then. And are you on with me to kick things off?
I believe so. That's what
Okay.
they tell me. I'll be up
Okay.
there.
Well, then I'll see you there.
All right.
We hope to see you there as well. Good luck, everyone, and we'll see you in a bit on air.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.